The alarm goes off, you commute, you work, you pay the bills, you sleep, and you do it all over again. It is incredibly easy to move through an entire life on autopilot, ticking off tasks without ever finding a clear set of instructions for what any of it means. Eventually, you have to ask, why am I participating in this cycle? The universe offers plenty of routine, but it rarely volunteers a reason for it. In ancient Greece, Socrates became famous for pulling people out of this exact state. He didn't write books, he just asked questions. When a passerby claimed to be a good person, Socrates would demand they explain exactly what good looked like in every possible scenario. He proved that most people haven't actually thought through their own beliefs. Socrates realized that self-awareness begins only when a person admits their own ignorance, famously noting that he only knew one thing, that he knew nothing at all. 2,000 years of thought have branched into two primary directions: a quest to define what is actually real and a quest to decide how to live. On the side of reality, Plato argued that the physical world we touch is flawed and temporary. He described humanity as prisoners chained inside a cave, staring at flickering shadows on a wall. To the prisoners, those shadows are everything, but Plato insisted the true world of ideas exists outside, reachable only through reason. Aristotle, Plato's student, rejected this abstract focus. He believed reality is found by looking down, not up. To understand what a bird is, he didn't imagine a perfect ideal. He observed real birds, how they fly, what they eat, and how they hatch. Centuries later, Thomas Aquinas attempted to bridge this physical observation with faith. He argued that reason and religion are compatible. Just as you use logic to know a phone exists because you see messages it sends, Aquinas believed logic allows us to deduce the existence of God by observing the mechanics of the world. But René Descartes pushed doubt even further. He realized he could doubt his senses and even his memories, but he couldn't doubt the fact that he was currently thinking. "I think, therefore I am," became the undeniable truth he used to build all other knowledge. John Locke moved the focus back to experience. He argued that the mind is a tabula rasa, or blank slate, shaped entirely by what we perceive. Because we build ourselves through our experiences, Locke argued that every individual possesses inherent rights to life, liberty, and property, ideas that eventually formed the backbone of modern democracy. David Hume added a final layer of caution. He pointed out that because our senses can be tricked, like a spectator watching a magic trick, our understanding of reality must always include a margin of doubt. If the first quest is defining reality, the second is application, how to live. Epicurus suggested that happiness comes from avoiding excess and seeking simple tranquility. For him, a basic meal and the company of friends are far more valuable than a life of constant, painful indulgence. Seneca and the Stoics focused on the things we can't change. You cannot control the weather or the actions of others, but you have total control over your internal reaction. Seneca observed that we often suffer more from what we imagine than from what actually happens. Immanuel Kant approached life with a moral GPS. He believed doing the right thing is a matter of universal duty. If you see someone in trouble, you help them, because it follows a correct rule of conduct, regardless of whether you feel like doing it or not. But Confucius, meanwhile, looked at social harmony. He argued that society thrives when everyone fulfills their specific role with respect. If a child respects their parent and a ruler respects their people, the community remains stable without the need for complex laws or religious threats. Whether through Seneca's calm or Confucius's duty, these thinkers suggest that a good life requires an intentional structure. It is something you participate in rather than something that just happens to you. In the modern era, the focus shifted to the forces that control us. Karl Marx argued that the labor of the working majority primarily benefits a wealthy few, creating an economic imbalance that dictates how we live and think. Hannah Arendt analyzed how populations lose their freedom to totalitarianism, while Michel Foucault argued that institutions like schools and hospitals subtly condition us to be obedient, functioning as invisible models of social control. Even our own minds are not entirely under our control. Sigmund Freud explored the unconscious, suggesting that our daily human behavior is often driven by hidden desires and memories that we aren't even aware of. Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed that the concept of God is dead, challenging people to stop relying on old traditions for safety. He argued that once we recognize these external and internal forces, we are forced to decide for ourselves what is actually important. But this freedom brings a heavy weight. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that because our lives aren't predetermined by a higher power or a set script, we bear total responsibility for every choice we make. Albert Camus looked at this lack of a grand script and called it the absurd. You ask the world, why am I doing this? And the world offers no answer. The universe will never hand you a pre-packaged meaning for your daily routine. But Camus' solution was to play the game anyway. Just as you can enjoy a video game knowing the points aren't real, you can accept the lack of a cosmic meaning and still find joy in the game mechanics of your own life. Seneca's emotional calm, Kant's moral duty, and Descartes' rigorous logic are active lenses. You can reach for them at any moment to navigate your day-to-day friction. The ultimate lesson here is that meaning isn't a hidden object waiting to be found under a rock. It is a structure you actively build using the perspectives these thinkers left behind. Now you have the components to start.